The Final Lantern, Part for Daddy's Dollar, original story, approx. 3,000 words, USA style, emotional and moral-driven. The wind whispered through the cherry blossoms that lined the quiet riverside. The sky glowed with the soft orange of early evening, and the water reflected every flicker of light like a memory refusing to fade. Lily stood on the bridge, her silver hair shimmering under the lanterns that hung above the water. Lanterns she had lit every year for the past 43 years. Her hands trembled slightly now. Time had made them fragile, but her spirit still carried the warmth of all the stories that lived within these lights. She touched the paper of one lantern, tracing the folds the same way she once did with her mother. The very first night they built their lantern together, that night, decades ago, when grief had nearly drowned her after her father's passing. That night had taught her something sacred, that light could heal even the deepest darkness. Tonight, however, she could feel a change in the air. The Paper Lantern Festival, once filled with laughter and chatter, had grown quieter through the years. Many of her old friends had moved away. Some had passed on. The crowd that now gathered were new faces, children, tourists, strangers. Yet, when Lily looked at them, she saw something familiar. Curiosity, awe, and wonder. She smiled softly. Her granddaughter, Emma, tugged at her sleeve. "Grandma," she said, holding up a small lantern of her own, painted with stars. "Can I light this one for Mom?" Lily knelt down, her knees aching. "Of course, sweetheart. That's what the lanterns are for, to remind us of the love that never leaves." Emma nodded, her eyes glistening in the glow together. They dipped the lantern into the water. It bobbed gently, joining hundreds of others that shimmered down the stream like tiny suns, each carrying a story, a prayer, a piece of someone's heart. Lily closed her eyes. For a moment, she imagined she could hear her mother's voice again, laughing softly in the distance. A legacy of light later that evening. As the last of the lanterns drifted toward the horizon, Lily sat on the bench by the bridge, watching Emma chase fireflies. Her old friend and neighbor, Mr. Rivera, approached with the cane. "You've done it again, Lily," he said, smiling. "Another beautiful festival." "Not me," she replied, her voice gentle. "It's the people who come. They're the light." Mr. Rivera chuckled. "You always say that, but everyone here knows you're the reason it still happens. When the city stopped funding it, you didn't quit. You sold your paintings to keep it going." Lily shrugged modestly. "Some things are worth more than money." He nodded. "You're right, but you've given enough, Lily. Maybe it's time to rest." Her smile faded just slightly. She looked at the glowing water, then at her trembling hands. "I'll rest soon," she said softly. That night, back home, Lily sat at her wooden desk, the same one she'd had since she was a young girl. On it lay a small journal labeled Lanterns of Hope. Inside were years of notes, sketches, names, prayers, and messages people had written during the festivals. She opened to a page where her mother's handwriting appeared faintly in pencil. "When you share your light, you don't lose it, you multiply it." Lily smiled through her tears. She took a blank page and began writing a letter. "The letter to my dearest Emma. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't light this year's lantern beside you. But I want you to know, every lantern you float from now on carries a piece of me to dot. Life is full of storms, my sweet girl. But even in the darkest nights, remember, you were born with light inside you. You don't need to wait for someone else to hand it to you. Keep the festival alive, not because it was mine, but because the world will always need more people willing to light a lantern for someone else. All my love, Grandma Lily." She folded the letter and tucked it inside the notebook. Then she placed it in a small wooden box, along with a single unlit lantern. The final lantern the next morning. The sun rose over a quiet, dew-covered town. Birds chirped outside, as Emma ran into her grandmother's room. "Grandma," she called softly. Lily was sitting by the window, her face turned toward the morning light. Her hands were folded peacefully in her lap, and a faint smile rested on her lips. On the bedside table, a small lantern sat beside a matchbox and a note. Emma's hands shook as she opened it. It read, "It's your turn now." Tears filled her eyes. She hugged the note to her chest and whispered, "I promise, Grandma." 1 year later, the river glowed again. Hundreds of people had gathered, more than ever before. Children ran barefoot through the grass, laughter echoing like music. Lanterns painted with names, messages, and hearts filled the air. Emma, now 17, stood on the same bridge her grandmother once did. In her hands was the wooden box Lily had left behind. She opened it and carefully lifted the final lantern, the one Lily never lit. It was old and delicate, but inside it was her grandmother's handwriting, for the ones who keep the light alive. Emma took a deep breath. The crowd watched in silence as she struck the match and lit the candle inside. The flame flickered weakly at first, then burned steady and bright. She knelt and released it onto the river as it drifted away. Something magical happened. People began lighting their own lanterns, one by one, following her lead. The river came alive, a flowing path of gold stretching far into the night, and for a moment, Emma swore she saw a faint silhouette at the edge of the bridge, her grandmother, smiling, lantern in hand. Epilogue: the legacy continues years later. Tourists would travel from all over the country to see the Lanterns of Hope Festival. They would say it was the most beautiful event had ever witnessed, not because of the lights, but because of the feeling it left behind, and at the center of it all, on a small plaque beside the river, were the words dedicated to Lily Thompson, who taught us that one light can spark 1,000. Emma, now grown, stood by that plaque every year, her own daughter at her side, and told the same story. Her grandmother once told her, "Every lantern carries a story. Every story carries a heart, and every heart, no matter how broken, can shine again." As the sun set and the lanterns began to float once more, Emma whispered, "Good night, Grandma." The light still burning, Can't River shimmered, alive, eternal, endless, moral, even when we are gone. The kindness and light we share continue to guide others. One act of love can outlive us all.